have a confession to make. The recipe that I'm sharing with you today, it's not called Cheat Day Chocolate Zucchini Cake. It's just chocolate zucchini cake. And I'm sorry that I lured you in here with that very misleading title. And please don't hate me when I say what I'm about to say either. Don't cheat on yourself. Don't cheat on yourself. Don't cheat on anyone, but definitely don't cheat on yourself. I know that the idea behind a cheat day or a cheat meal comes from a good place, and the intention is that you have, or we have, these brief moments or meals of indulgence that help us feel like we're not depriving ourselves when we set goals for our health and especially for our weight. And I think that itself is lovely and wonderful, and I never want you to feel deprived. I don't want you to feel like you're suffering or missing out on things in life. But there are a few issues with the whole concept of a cheat day or a cheat meal that I just cannot get comfortable with. On a totally superficial level, the name just bugs me. I mean, it implies that you're cheating. And if you are cheating on anyone or anything, you're cheating on yourself. And I think it's kind of lame to imply or to try and present cheating on your own self as something that's like cute and adorable. And I'm not judging anyone. I'm just sharing my own personal philosophy, my own point of view. But yeah, I don't feel like self-sabotage is really like a cute thing. I think it's a common thing, and I think it's a really relatable thing. I think most of us do it in one way or another at some point. But I don't feel like it's a celebration. Does that make sense? Another thing that really bothers me about it is it really encourages this all or nothing mentality. And I feel like when we have that mindset, we're more likely not only to eat the things that are less helpful or healthful, which obviously we often are when we're cheating, but also because it kind of encourages us to eat way more than we maybe would have if we didn't feel like this was our one chance, or maybe we're going to eat way less helpful or less healthful things because this is our opportunity, and it feels like the next time we'll get to do this is so far away. And this can be especially triggering for people who are prone to binge eating or suffer from other forms of disordered eating. So it's that kind of thought approach, I guess, is just like a big no for me. Another thing is that if you do have a cheat meal or a cheat day and you do go all out, there's a good chance that you're going to end up feeling really crappy physically afterwards. Like, never mind the whole emotional, mental roller coaster of this, but just eating a lot of not healthy foods or too much food will often just leave you feeling really bloated and gassy, maybe nauseous. You might be constipated, have diarrhea, or just have a really horrible sleep that night. And when you're taking all these amazing steps to take really good care of yourself, you should feel good. That's the reward, right? And not feel like garbage. You deserve better than that. So I have a few tips for you. No pressure. You don't have to do them if you don't want to. But they're just a few tips that you could try instead of having a cheat day or a cheat meal. The first one is planning ahead. So if you know that tomorrow night you're going to go out for dinner with friends, and you're going to a restaurant where the food is probably pretty rich and caloric, then just try and plan ahead the breakfast and the lunch that you're going to have that day. Don't starve yourself. Please don't do that. Just plan to have lighter but really nutrient-dense meals for your breakfast and your lunch so that you won't feel as literally deprived, physically deprived when you eat that meal in the evening. Another thing is that if you are planning to do some baking, or you're going to buy some pastries at the bakery or some other kind of dessert, maybe try and plan that for a day that you know that there's going to be people around to share that with, so that you don't feel tempted, especially if you're somebody who has problems with impulse control, which many people do. plan to be able to share this with people so you're not stuck with an entire chocolate zucchini cake all to yourself to eat. Unless, of course, you are excellent at portioning these things out, putting pieces in the freezer or things like that. If you are good at that, you're amazing, and I have not met you yet. Another thing to think about too is really just to think about how you're gonna physically feel after you eat something. So take away the shame and the guilt and all the weird messages that you give yourself about whether or not you should or shouldn't eat it, and just really focus on how is this food gonna make me feel? And how do I want to feel? Is this food gonna make me feel the way I want to feel? And of course, try, if you can, to eat slowly and mindfully enough that you can tell when you're satisfied before you get full. Getting full is that feeling that leads to you also then feeling bloated and gassy and lethargic, just tired. And that's not what you're trying to achieve when you're trying to feel satisfied. So really try to pay attention to your hunger cues and try and pay attention to when you feel satisfied but not stuffed. And if you feel satisfied, stop there. And my most important tip for you is to truly and genuinely enjoy the food that you're eating. Don't eat a plate of French fries and berate yourself while you're doing it. Don't eat ice cream and tell yourself how horrible it is for you and how bad this is and how you shouldn't be doing this and how you're gonna have to punish yourself afterwards or pay for this later or make up for it somehow. Starve yourself tomorrow. Do not do that. It is so unhelpful and unhealthy on so many levels. If you are having a plate of French fries, just slowly, mindfully eat the French fries until you're satisfied, not full, and truly enjoy them. It's going to be so much harder to digest this food if you're all stressed out and your stomach is in knots while you're doing it. So truly enjoy it. And also, that's why you ate this food. That's why you chose this food, because you wanted to treat yourself. The amount of time that it takes for your cake to bake will depend on a few things. The accuracy of the temperature of your oven, the baking pan that you use to bake your cake in, and how well you drain the zucchini after you grate it, if you drain it at all. You don't have to drain it, but if you don't, it will take much longer for the cake to bake. So in this pan that is glass, I baked my cake with the zucchini not very drained at all, just very lightly squeezed in a cheesecloth, and it took about an hour for it to bake. After buttering the pan, you can lightly flour it if you want to. I, for some reason, had a hard time flouring this pan and ended up having to just kind of dust it around with my fingers, but pretend that that didn't happen and everything played out perfectly. The next thing that I did was put the juice of half of a small lemon into half of a cup of non-dairy milk, and I set that aside to curdle. The next thing that I did was cream just over a cup of granulated sugar in half a cup of vegan butter. I used Earth Balance, and half a cup of olive oil. Once the fat and sugar was well creamed together, I added the equivalent of 2 eggs. I used a powdered egg replacer that was mixed with a bit of water. There are many different ways to replace an egg when you're baking, and if you go on sweetvegan.net, I have a list of examples that you can refer to if you need some help. Once the egg replacer was well incorporated into the fat and sugar, I then, in a different bowl, sifted 2.5 cups of flour, 1/2 of unsweetened cocoa powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt. I put the dry ingredients aside and I grated up about 2 cups of zucchini. And as I mentioned before, if you put the grated zucchini in a tea towel or some cheesecloth and you squeeze out the water, that will speed up the baking time. So of course, the more zucchini water or liquid you're able to squeeze out, the faster your cake will bake. I start checking mine at about 40 minutes. Usually it takes just under an hour to just over an hour. But like I said earlier, there's different contributing factors, so just keep an eye on it. I then alternated adding the dry ingredients and the curdled plant milk to the butter and sugar mixture. And then once that was well mixed together, I folded in the grated zucchini. I then poured all of that into my pan and baked it in a preheated oven at 325 Fahrenheit. I know some people put frosting on their zucchini cake, but this zucchini cake is so moist and it's really almost like a brownie, like a fat, fluffy brownie. It does not need any frosting if you ask me, but I'm not a huge fan of frosting in the first place, so maybe you won't agree with me on this one. It is so delicious though. That part you have to believe, and I really, really hope you try this recipe, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know how it turned out for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. It means a tremendous amount to me. If you are a Patreon subscriber, I can't express to you enough how deeply moved I am by the fact that you believe in the work that I'm doing enough to want to support it and be a part of it and help to make this channel possible. So I thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are someone who would like to work one-on-one with me for nutrition or naturopathy, there is a booking link in the description below. I will be back soon. In the meantime, take very, very good care of yourselves. Bye.